I mean, he's playing like one of the best players in the Premier League, and that's not over-exaggerating.
How did we get here regarding this dark art?
I know.
It's like I live in my own world or something. And when I come out of it, it's like, everybody hates us. Why is that?
PSG right now have one way of playing. Spurs have one way of playing. United have no way of playing. So you see, no, it's true.
Oh, cheers. Thanks for that one.
Hello and welcome to a brand new series from talkSPORT where we'll be delving into all things Arsenal. I'm Talia Lazarus and this is Inside Gooners. What a week! Arsenal have followed up their last gasp win against Leicester with a statement win in the Champions League against the French champions PSG. Joining me on today's show to discuss both of those victories and much more, a former Premier League striker and scorer of 106 Premier League goals, Darren Bent, Arsenal Vision podcaster and all-round Arsenal oracle, Clive Palmer, and journalist and European football expert, Julien Laurens. Welcome, everybody. How are we all feeling?
Positive, good.
Positive, good?
Good day.
Good. Man, I'm really, really excited for, well, not just a whole show about Arsenal, but also to dive into everything that's been going on so far within the season. But Darren, I'm going to start with you. We're just going to go straight in. We've got to talk about it. Obviously, former Spurs player, and you are an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, I mean, you could have started with maybe a Sunderland player or Villa. You don't have to mention it.
We're going straight into Spurs. This is an Arsenal show.
Yeah. Listen, I've been a lifelong Arsenal fan since I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? So it's ingrained. You play a long career, and then when it finishes, that fan comes back out. You can't help it.
I've got a question then. How was that then with you when you ever turned up at the Arsenal stadium, being an Arsenal fan, playing for Spurs?
Well, obviously, I had to spend a significant period not going to the stadium because when I was at Charlton, I used to go and watch Arsenal in the Champions League at the old Highbury. And then I had a long period where I didn't go because obviously I played for Spurs, a professional football league. You haven't got time to do it anymore. But then obviously once I retired, which was about 5-6 years ago, got a season ticket down there and I pretty much go to most games now, every game.
Nice. Well, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And then Clive, it's amazing to have you on our first episode of Inside Gooners. And we promise we won't be setting Jamie Carragher or Paul Scholes on you today.
Yeah,
so
that'd be quite nice. I've got some friendly faces around me and I feel so happy.
Amazing. And then obviously, Julien, you're a PSG fan and an Arsenal fan. And obviously we're going to go into last night's game, but how are you feeling this morning then?
I mean, in a way, it was the Lawrence derby, so I could not really lose, It was a privileged position, I guess, being at the stadium last night and covering that game because my heart was just divided in, and I think it's good for Arsenal. It's a good win. It's a good first half, and for PSG, it just shows that there's more to come. It's a work in progress. They have a lot of work on their hands. But yeah, I'm super happy to be here with you guys to talk a bit about PSG and a lot about Arsenal.
A little bit about PSG, but a lot about Arsenal. So let's go straight into last night's game. Do you think it was a comfortable win then?
Yeah, I definitely thought first half, I thought Arsenal were really comfortable, took their chances. Probably if you look at the context of the game, should have had more really. Martinelli had a couple of chances. But PSG, I think the team selection helped Arsenal a little bit. No real focal point. I think Kolo Muani came on, Fabian Ruiz came on, and they had a real impact in the game. Changed slightly, but by that point, I thought the game was over. But for Arsenal, I think they had to put a performance in, get that result. After the 0-0 against Atalanta was a little bit flat, you didn't want to start the game either 2 points or 1 point from 2 games. You needed to get that victory. And for me, I know PSG maybe weren't what they was. Yeah. It was still a statement win for Arsenal to win in the Champions League against one of Europeans' elite. I think it was a good performance and a comfortable result in the end.
Clive, how do you think the performance was from Arsenal last night then?
I think it's quite interesting watching Arsenal play without Martin Odegaard and how they're changing how they play. I think I was a bit worried in some of the Spurs games and the City games, a bit more defensive. Odegaard is missed, but not as missed. But when we're going to have the ball, then what do we look like? And what he's done, the manager, to change that, to get people playing in partnerships rather than threes, I really like. And we're now starting to see certain partnerships develop, like Havertz and Trossard, Partey and Rice, and Timber and Saka. You can go through the team, there are partnerships coming, and it's really making us more attacking look very, very good.
Clive, can I ask you a question as well? Because you say then, you're totally right. Do you think it's nice to see, though, Arsenal win in other ways? Because usually it's free flow and it's nice. Odegaard's a wonderful footballer. But if you look at what we've had to do, as you said there, the last couple of games, you've almost had to grind it out.
Yeah.
That's almost a positive.
Well, it is a positive, but it's not seen as a positive by everybody, right? Because we can play different ways, right? So if you want to have 8 behind the ball, we can do that. If you want to build up on the halfway line and keep people in the half, we can do that. If you want a high press, we can do that. We can mid-block. We can do all parts of the game. We've got a goalkeeper that can control it. And that should be something that's a positive, don't you think, Jules? But suddenly it's used as something to maybe beat us against, because there seems to be a lane by which we must succeed, and that lane is very narrow. Maybe do it the Arsene Wenger nice, stylish way, and maybe get beat away now and again. But really, what we're doing, I think, should be admired by more people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think yesterday you saw it. First half, really intense, high press, the physicality was impressive, the way they took their chances, really good. And then the second half, they let the ball to PSG and they closed the shop, basically. And yeah, PSG had the shot by Lee, the crossbar by Joe Neves, but really nothing, I think, where Arsenal lost control of that game. So to be able to play, and Mikel Arteta said it on the coverage last night, he said it's good to have different ways of playing. You can attack and attack and attack, and I think they can do that for the whole 90 minutes because they're that good physically. And also, if they want to get a block a bit lower and just let the ball to the opposition and wait and counter, they can do that too. So for me, it's just they have all these skill sets really now as a team that has been built for the last 2.5 years really by Arteta, which is really impressive. And if you look at PSG right now have one way of playing. Spurs have one way of playing. United have no way of playing. So you see, no, it's true. City have different ways. That's why Arsenal are the closest to City, really. Even Slot and Liverpool have one way of playing, and we haven't seen yet anything else than the way they play the plan A. I think to have plan A, B, and C is very, very important right now if you want to compete in the league and in the Champions League.
So then on that actually, so Arsenal sat kind of, into a deeper block in the second half yesterday. And then Seedorf on TV coverage said that a better side might have punished them for that. Do you agree with that or do you not?
I think it's a good debate to have, and we discussed it before the show with the boys as well, because you can control the game, but you can, as we saw against Leicester, you get one goal against you and then suddenly the dynamic changes a little bit. However, I just didn't think yesterday they were really ever not in control of that game. As much as I would have loved PSG to come back into the game, it never really looked that way, even after Colomwani and Fabian came on, for example. But yeah, I think if it's another team, Arsenal don't go back to a lower block. I think they keep attacking and they keep playing higher up the pitch and controlling that game in the opposition half. It was because yesterday I think they felt like we don't even need to spend too much energy here in the second half.
Nice. Okay, then I'm going to ask Clive then. Do you think this was a statement win? Especially for Europe. Do you think Europe now looking at Arsenal and they're ready for them?
I think Europe may look at us now because PSG is a big name, right? It's a very big name. For me, I think we're learning the course of a season. And so this time last year, the first Champions League game at home was so exciting. But the weekend, we drew 2-2 with Spurs because a lot of emotional energy went on that first home game. Whereas now, I sort of turned up last night. It was nice. I thought,
you like the music?
Yeah, I like the music still. And it was really nice. But I thought, actually, we're quite assured. And that's the difference. We're doing this at 75%. And maybe because we played every 3 days, we have to. But I quite like how we look across the pitch.
It's how much they've learned from last season.
Yeah, huge. I think so, because I think against Bayern Munich first leg, I think they got to that quarter-final and I think they were quite comfortable. I know the Porto game, the penalties and stuff, but I almost feel like the first leg against Bayern was the first one when they went, oh, okay, and they didn't maybe control that first leg, because then when it got to go into the Allianz against Bayern, they didn't really offer anything. They didn't quite know how to handle that occasion. Now, maybe the away goals rule might have something to do with that, but when they got to Bayern, it was almost like, well, what do we do? Do we go out and attack? Do we not? And I think from that experience last season, I think this season now moving forward, as they progress, I know it's a different kind of format, I think that will help them when they come up against better sides that, okay, we can't just sit in there and hope. I think they'll know what to do. And that's why I quite like the fact that Arsenal have found different ways of playing. And that, because that front foot football won't always work against some of the better teams. But if you can defend deep, all of a sudden there you go, okay, it might be a set play, which Arsenal, people talk about set plays not being, like, Arsenal, not so much cheat. I think it was L'Equipe said something about Arsenal with the blocks and that in the Champions League. It won't work.
Yesterday,
But I think set plays are vital, and Arsenal are probably the best in Europe at doing that. So that's a weapon as well.
But it's interesting, and we'll obviously talk about it a little bit more later on about Martin Odegaard, but him obviously not being here at the moment has definitely we've started to see difference in the team in general, and other players. Obviously, Arteta's had to probably think, right, I have to change things up and see what else we can do. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, I'd rather something like this happen at the beginning of the season because he can figure it out. We don't want something like that to happen towards the end of the season because, obviously anything can happen. And then just quickly then, while we're talking about the Champions League, we have Inter Milan away coming up in November. How are you feeling for that one?
Yeah, I mean, Inter Milan are a good side. They really impressed me when they played against City in their first game. Defensively solid, good players in the middle of the pitch. Broke really well. And probably had really good opportunities against City. And that's another test for Arsenal. I mean, PSG at home, yes, PSG are a good side, but you're at home, the Arsenal fans, the atmosphere. Going to the San Siro is going to be different. But I think Arsenal now, with the experience of last season, as we spoke about, I think that will stand them in good stead going into that game.
I think we're like a team of good travellers. When we go, when we go away, I don't know what they do to those players, but they turn into warriors.
Yeah.
Right? So when they line up in the time they come out, you look at them and think, you know what, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay physically across the ground, how we move, and then it becomes a matter of chance taking. Can we take opportunities that are presented to us? And we all worry about one thing about our team, one or two things. For me, it's that chance taken at the key moment. If we can continue to do that, we are going to go far in whatever competition we choose to go far in.
For me, some of the PSG players I saw yesterday after the game were saying about the confidence that they come. And I know it's at the Emirates and there's the home crowd, etc. But they felt that these Arsenal players were just like, okay, it's hers now, and they play like men, proper men. But proper men like proper top team. Not a team that maybe last season they were in the first leg away at Porto, for example, where you go to Porto and you don't feel like the pressure, but you feel a little bit, okay, this is Champions League, this is last 16, this is knockout stages. Yeah. And the PSG players felt yesterday like, wow, okay, this is a hell of a team. And I think this is it. And the confidence that they've got to now, unbeaten. We get into October, they're unbeaten already, having played away at Villa, away at City, away at Spurs, having played PSG at home, away at Atalanta in the Champions League, and you're still unbeaten, even without Martin Odegaard for the last 4 games. It's like, okay, and I think we saw that yesterday, especially in that first half. Second half is different, but the first half, they started that game like a team that really meant business, and that's what you were saying. How do you call it? Mortgage football.
Yeah, paying for your mortgage, not playing academy football.
Exactly, but for PSG, it felt more like this is a young team and they're still very much learning. Arsenal felt like, okay, we are here now, look at us.
What was the reaction in France then last night?
Like I said earlier, there was no surprises really in how good Arsenal were. Let's just focus on that first half and the gap between the two teams. But Arsenal are 4 years ahead or 3 years ahead of PSG in their project. The Arteta project is here, the Luis Enrique project is here. And it's a young team. The average age for PSG was 23 yesterday. Arsenal was almost 26. 3 years at that level is massive. Yeah. On top of Luis Enrique, I think picking the wrong team, leaving Dembele at home because he disagreed with him, which I find a little bit... You must have disagreed with a lot of your managers, right?
Yeah, of course.
Never stayed home on the sofa.
It's almost... That surprised me as well because they need him.
Yeah,
he's been on fire this year.
Yeah. He's our best player.
I saw an eye roll there when you said that.
Yeah. But yeah, so in France, L'Équipe, Le Parisien, the newspaper, the radio show that I do after the game last night, which was like basically there's nothing that PSG, Donnarumma has never been good on crosses. He cost them 2 goals yesterday. So it was not all negative, but it's very much a learning curve for them. It was, again, for Arsenal, it's very much like, okay, we saw, again, all the potential there on the pitch in that first half, even without Odegaard.
Yeah, it's the emphasis on even without Odegaard that's already been established quite a few times, and it's a really interesting topic. But what we're going to do now is we're actually going to move on from last night's match, and we're going to look back on a memorable Saturday at the Emirates Stadium. I was there. It was so much fun. When that third goal went in, wow, the stadium erupted. But obviously, what I want to ask you then, Darren, is when you saw the 7 minutes go up on the board, I know how I felt. What did you think when you saw that happen?
Well, Arsenal have got this kind of mentality where it's just, you always thought it's coming. Now, Manchester United probably had that better than anyone back in the early 2000s and the 90s, where it didn't matter how much time was injury time, you just felt like it was coming. And for me, all it was with Arsenal, they always create opportunities, but can somebody take the chance? So again, they've made me a believer in terms of the game's never over. Until the referee blows his whistle with Arsenal, it's never over. We saw Reece Nelson do it, I think, a couple of years ago against Bournemouth.
So Luton,
exactly.
We even had it last season with Manchester City in the cup game at Wembley.
Exactly.
I mean, it literally was the last. It was the last seconds.
Exactly. So I just think Arsenal now have just got this mindset, and I think other teams now coming up against Arsenal will understand that even if it says 2 minutes, they'll keep going to the very end, and that's that's another way of winning. Because again, that's a mentality thing. Because some teams would get to that point and go, do you know what? They'll change their tactics, they'll start going long. But Arsenal kept playing the same way, kept probing, and eventually, when the opportunity presented itself, and they took it. And for me, that's a massive positive. That is.
It's funny as well because when the extra time went up and it said 7 minutes, everyone in the stadium cheered. They got ready. They got excited because I think, like you were saying, we know that it doesn't really matter how long extra time is. Arsenal can do it in extra time. I mean, I know any club can, but Arsenal really, really seem to pull it off in extra time.
I really believed they were going to do it. And when I got home and watched it again, I thought, crikey, that was late.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have been more nervous. Yeah. But it just felt inevitable. It really did. And that sounds arrogant, but it's just where we are now. It felt inevitable.
And also the pressure that we've been put on this Leicester goal. I mean, Hermansen had the game of his life, really, with all the saves he made. It's not like if Arsenal could not create anything in the last 15 minutes of the game and then you go into added time and you think, OK, it's something really that has to be miraculous now. With Arsenal, we're so good after the James Justin volley that you knew at some point one of those chances would certainly go in because they created so many. They had 36 shots, 17 corners. I mean, really, Arsenal just battered Leicester. It just happened that Leicester scored one deflected header and then this worldie from James Justin who will never score ever again a goal like this of this quality. But whereas for the Bournemouth game, for example, I remember even the Emirates, I don't know if you remember, for the Bournemouth last season and the Reece Nelson, the most unlikely of heroes, it felt really the stadium was erupted. I felt on Saturday, like you said, everybody expected it in the stadium. Yeah. It's almost like nobody panicked and we kind of all knew, don't worry, we've got this, don't worry. And then, the third goal came. Was for Bournemouth last season, it felt really like a momentous moment because, I remember the explosion of the stadium, which was amazing. Saturday was a little bit like, OK, we've done it before and we'll do it again. This is what we do.
I think there's a little lesson from Saturday because I was so confident at half-time. Yeah. I thought, well, I'm planning dinner later and things like that.
Still with the boys.
And basically, they came out after half-time a little bit quiet and conceded 2 goals undeservedly. But against PSG now, I felt we were concentrated after half-time, that first few minutes. And I think you always learn something from a game. And I felt more confident we'd hold that clean sheet in the second half against PSG.
Well, then, just on that game then, because Arsenal dominated the game, but the score sheet doesn't really see that or say that, don't you think?
What, on Saturday?
On Saturday.
Yeah, we dominated it, and I think Leicester got maximum reward for the time they entered our box, but there was a game last season against Fulham. Remember the 2-2 draw at home against Fulham? When they scored with 10 men from a corner? And we sort of felt sorry for ourselves and took the 2-2 draw. Those points were really crucial towards the end of the season. So, again, it's all about learnings. It's all about learning the course ahead of us. And I do feel this team is really fast at learning and really fast at learning new playing styles. And this manager, he does not get the credit he deserves. He just doesn't. He's producing something for us all, which is of a new level of determination, competitiveness, physicality, ball playing ability, but it's collective spirit, and I think that is the thing that comes across.
Even last night on the sideline, if you watch the two managers, you would have think that Luis Enrique's side were winning because he was there calm, just standing. Arteta was there berating his players. There was one time where they were 2-0 up. I think they broke PSG and he's screaming, get back in. And I'm thinking, that's what you want your manager to do. Whereas Enrique on the other side, when they're getting beat, was just standing there at times, calm, collective. And I think that's a sign of Arteta and where this Arsenal side is that he knows details. I think details are everything. Small, minute details. He doesn't want the team to slack off, even a little bit, because that can have a really detrimental effect going forward. He wants them to be at it for every single minute. And as you said there, I think it was almost a learning curve, that Leicester game, because I felt against PSG, they came out at half-time focused. Certainly for that first 10 minutes, we're not going to give up anything, not give them any kind of sniff, because you get a goal 5 minutes after half-time, you know what it's like. 2-0 for me is the worst lead in football. Because the team gets one, and all of a sudden it's panic stations, which sounds bonkers because you've got a 2-0 lead. But I thought they came out second half and were like, no, focus. I mean, as the game wore on, yes, PSG had a couple of chances, but not at once did I ever feel they were in any real trouble.
How important was it for Arsenal to put on a dominant display against Leicester, especially with the narrative the following week about that they are, a defensive team?
Yeah, well, again, it's one of those. It's almost like finding a way to win now, and maybe it's just because it's Arsenal. It's seen as a bad thing. Like there are times we've seen teams put in masterclasses. I've heard it called defensive displays where you don't give up too much. Arsenal do it, and it's considered boring. It's considered not sportsmanlike because of certainly the Man City game is what I'm obviously alluding to. But for Leicester, It depends on the opposition as well. Arsenal completely dominated that game. Yes, 4-2, you look at it and go, and there was a couple of dodgy decisions. Calafiori could have got himself sent off. So I understand that. But at the same time, you've got to win these type of games. A couple of years ago, this might have cost Arsenal. This concentration might have gone. But yes, they won the game. It should have been 10-2, but it wasn't 10-2. But they were dominant. They controlled the proceedings. I never really felt like there was any real danger of them losing that game. But you've got to give them positives. And I think they'll take, again, little bits from that game, little bits from the PSG game, moving forward. And by the end of the season, we hope there's something to show at the end of it.
100%, 100%. And then I know we briefly mentioned it before, but how do you think Arsenal are doing this season then? I mean, so far, just the last few games without Odegaard. You know, he's hopefully coming back soon, but, you know, how do you think it's going at the moment?
I think it's his major moment to play without Odegaard because, I mean, you watch the games, he's like the coach. Yeah. He's like, he directs traffic, he directs the press, he does everything. So him not being there, we're all concerned, right? And how are we going to find another way? And we found a way, partly off the ball for a phase, but now we're on the ball. And I think what he's done is taken away redundancy from players that maybe not been so proactive are now being proactive. So our fullbacks are far more proactive. They're beating people and they're springing into attack, whereas normally they just beat their man, give it to Odegaard, and Odegaard will spring things. So now they're getting further up the pitch, they're being far more progressive. Rice and Partey, I think, are a really good partnership, but more of a double pivot. You've got two false nines or double tens, whatever you call them. So we're playing in blocks. And we wouldn't do that if Odegaard was there. So when Odegaard comes back in now, I wonder how we'll change. Will we revert back to the 3-2 Pep style? Or will we stay in this 2x2 system and develop from there? It's going to be so interesting.
And also, I mean, Mikel Merino yesterday coming on. Great, I think, to have another option like that. And it's no coincidence that Gabi Martinelli has been much better since Odegaard got injured. Because when Odegaard is there and Bukayo Saka, two Arsenal's best players, really, the game, the tendency is to play on the right all the time because you find Martin and then he finds Saka, etc. And Martinelli, I think, and the guys on the left-hand side are left a little bit like, okay, what about us, kind of thing. Now there's not Odegaard. I think we're spreading far more how we attack and where we attack. Plus the Calafiori presence behind Martinelli, I think, is massive too. And that's why Gabi has been so good. And really, against PSG, should have had at least a goal or an assist. But we saw against Leicester, we saw against City, even Spurs, okay, he misses that chance in the first half. But it's there more, I think, because, and it's not, I'm not complaining about Odegaard having so many responsibilities. I'm just saying that for someone like Martinelli, that the game is a bit more spread and the ball comes a little bit more on the left because there's no Odegaard on the right, then I think that's helping him and for his own confidence too.
Do you think then, well, not do you think, how do you think we're going to perform then when Odegaard's back? Do you think we will be a better side, especially compared to last season, or?
Yeah, because I think, again, to what we've said so far, is having different facets to your game and how you can play, especially in possession. Our possession is different, but in possession. So Odegaard is there. You can always revert to what has worked really well before, the 4-3-3, and that's no problem. Even with Odegaard, you can probably manage the team in those partnerships everywhere, like Clive was very well explaining earlier. You could also know now that you can take Odegaard off after 60, 65 minutes, 70 minutes because you've got another plan behind. And then we go back to my plan A, B, C, and D when others have plan A, A minus, or some plan nothing for others in red. But it's true. And I think this is great. So Odegaard, amazing player, captain, lead by example, everything you want, great. But you also know that there's life without him too, which we were not so sure 4 weeks ago.
And that's the important point, isn't it? It's to know that we have the opportunities. If he can't play for whatever the reasons are, we can bring other people in. And I think that was slightly different to maybe what was going on last season, is we didn't always have that such a rotating squad. Whereas this season, obviously, Arteta's really made a point to, you know, if a player can't play, we have got to back up, or at least, you know, a different kind of set play or a different kind of way that we can do things. But then I want to ask then everyone, the panel, what do you think Arsenal's weaknesses are going to be for the rest of the season?
Squad depth, I think, is maybe an issue. The only reason I say that is, yes, we look quite loaded all over the place, but I still think at the centre-half position, if we lost Saliba or Gabriel, that's one where I'm a little bit, yes, there's cover there, Calafiori can play their timber, but they're not Saliba. Like
true.
Even last night, 1-to-1 defending, he's happy to defend 1v1, and I'd like to see centre-halves do that, using his body, comfortable in possession. That's probably one area I'd be a little bit, I wouldn't be as comfortable. I wouldn't panic, but I wouldn't be as comfortable.
For me, I've seen Timber playing sleeves position in the summer, and he's got the same aura. He hasn't got the same size, but he's got that last man gene. I'm all right with this lot.
There's one yesterday, you know, on Barcola in the first half.
One in the box.
Where he comes back and I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, he's good. But the one player I don't think we can replicate for me is Kai Havertz. I think we have a focal point centre forward, and since we have had him at centre forward, we've barely lost a game in 2024. And we look a different team. And so we have other forwards who are nice pocket players, receive it, turn, twist, do their stuff. But we haven't got anybody that's 6'4" that can work back, work the sides, be that player that hold centre backs and pin them. We've got no one else like that. So that's the only one, I think, for me, that's my worry. Because he's fantastic, but he's playing every minute of every game, every 3 days.
He's become almost Arsenal's most important player at a time.
I agree.
And it doesn't matter where he plays, because whenever there's substitution, he never comes off and he just moves position, then he drops back into midfield, goes, because I think he's that type of player that can play anywhere. And I have to hold my hands up. When the signing came in, I was one that went, really? 65 million was it? I was like, but look what he's done at Chelsea. But that just shows you, again, and that's where Arteta deserves a lot of credit. Because he's seen him, he's believed in him, and he's given him the confidence. Because look at him now. I mean, he's playing like one of the best players in the Premier League, and that's not over-exaggerating it. He is so important, his qualities. He can win his header, he can hold the ball, can score a goal, he's composed in possession, will take the ball under duress as well. For me, he's been so important for Arsenal this season.
100%, and that's the thing. And I'm gonna move on with that point in a second, but obviously I want to ask you, what do you think that the weaknesses will be?
I don't know. I mean, injuries is the thing that scares me the most, because, you know, and especially when you're going to come to March, April and May in the league, in the Champions League, you need everybody, so need all the top players. The only thing I would say, and I don't see many weaknesses to this team at all, to this squad. I don't think Mikel has many. I don't think those boys have much. The only thing I would say, maybe in some top games would be the lack of experience. And I know they've been there now and they've learned a lot, etc. I still wonder, in a semi-final of the Champions League, away at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid and Mbappe and Vinicius, etc., how this team would cope under pressure. And that's the only thing. I would love Jorginho to be a little bit younger, for example, and be able to bring, I don't think he can play anymore in a game like that. But do you see what I mean? So this is just where maybe, but that's really a maybe, because I think they are so brilliant at the moment.
So back to the Kai Havertz point, because that's a really interesting point, and obviously a lot of media attention last season and even this season was, why are we not signing, you know, a number 9? And obviously, as a prolific number 9 yourself, how do you kind of see that moving forward? Obviously, we just said about Kai, but how do you see that moving forward? For me, it's a bit of a lazy narrative, I think, from people, because everyone says you need number 9. What number 9 fits what Arsenal want to do, the profile of what Arsenal want to do? You look at the best number 9s around the world, because that's what Arsenal want to go and get. It's one of the best. He's not going to get Harry Kane from Bayern Munich. He's not going to come to Arsenal. Haaland's at City. You can go for Solanke. I quite like Solanke. We don't know, in terms of that level, can he take Arsenal forward? So rather than Arsenal waste the money and go and buy somebody, I'd rather them take their time. And if the profile doesn't fit for a centre forward, then it doesn't fit. Now, what Arsenal will have to do is just do what they've done for a couple of seasons, which spread the goals around. And I'm more than confident with that. Havertz gets between his 10 and 15. Saka potentially the same. Martinelli, hopefully, after his goal against Leicester, might give him confidence. Gabriel Jesus coming off the bench. I think there are options for goals. So to almost pin all your hopes on one centre forward nowadays, and especially with the way the game's moved on, I just think it's a little bit of a lazy narrative, I do.
Yeah, I think with Havertz, he's a problem, right? Because he solves all our problems, right? Because when we're under a bit of pressure, the goalkeeper can find him. Right? When we need more people coming to midfield, he comes into midfield. We need to exit down the sides, he goes down the side. And I'm thinking, hold on. Every solution I'm looking for in the game when I'm stressed, he provides it. And that worries me. When I see one person be so valuable, I start to stress myself. So that's my only thing. I don't think anyone else can do that to that level. You know, and have the same presence and aura. And presence is really important. You said that word earlier on. Presence make other teams react differently to you, right? And he has that about him. And so, yeah, I worry about him. Stay healthy, son.
You're right. There's not much more I can add from what the boys have said. I think he's a wonderful player, and I was completely misunderstood when he arrived from Bayer Leverkusen to Chelsea, because Chelsea were a mess too, and they never really played on his strength. As soon as you do play on his strength, which is everything that we've just talked about, which is pretty much everything, because he can do it all. Yesterday, for me, was the prime example of scoring a goal like one of the best headers of the game would score. I don't know, a Fulkrug or those kind of guys. And then the touch for the Martinelli chance at the start of the second, which is so perfectly weighted on his left foot, just so beautiful and so elegant. And this is it. And not many strikers will be able to do those two things in the same game. So a wonderful asset, I think, to have for Arsenal.
100%. And I'm someone that even last season kind of said, just be patient with him. There was something that I could see.
Was you really?
No, I genuinely was. No, I genuinely was. No, I genuinely was. And there are clips of me that I genuinely was. They will resurface. I genuinely was. I used to tell everyone to be patient because he needed some time. And I know obviously what we spent on him, but he just needed some time. And I guess how I see it is we're all still human beings. They're still human beings. And sometimes you have to think about the human element and kind of what they need to gel or however it is they are that needs to set into a team. So it's nice to see that he's come into the beginning of this season strong, kind of how he kind of finished last season coming into this season strong.
But you know what? Arteta has always made me more so believe now that you could take a player regardless of what's going on where they are currently and turn them into a better player. Yeah. Now look at someone like Mudryk, who Arsenal were linked to, opted to go to Chelsea. We've got Trossard. I feel he would be so much better at Arsenal because of the structure at Arsenal. So I almost feel sorry for him that he's chosen the wrong option. But for Kai Havertz, again, maybe I was one who failed to see it because I just couldn't understand why Arsenal spent so much money on him. But we're looking after Arteta's guidance and the way that he's playing, the way he set him up. I'm almost not going to question Arteta again because he's clearly got it right.
Hey, don't feel sorry for him because then we wouldn't have Trossard.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Although Kai was signed to play as a number 8, he was Granit Xhaka's replacement. And that, I think they tried. It could have worked, I think. But you would have lost a lot of what he's bringing now as a number 9. So the Gabriel Jesus injury and the fact that then they said, okay, we need you at number 9, was just perfect. And sometimes things like that happen in football, right? Yeah. It's just the circumstances means that something changes and then suddenly it clicks and it's the right thing.
So it's been a lively start to the season. Controversy has followed Arsenal at almost every single turn, following Declan Rice's sending off, as every Arsenal fan will never forget that. Every newspaper, TV channel and former ref were seemingly talking about the letter of the law. But hey, bad publicity is still publicity, isn't it? Everyone is talking about Arsenal. And obviously Arsenal's tactics have been questioned and described as not worthy of champions after incredible defensive displays at Spurs and the Etihad. And that's not mentioning the dark arts narrative which consumed every media phone-in and Sky Sports YouTube discussion show. And then even recently, The Athletic published an article asking why it's right that Leandro Trossard featured in the next Premier League match, despite rules that have been in place since literally anyone can remember. So what did we do? We asked our fans, are the Premier League rattled by Arsenal?
Yes, guys, I'm outside the Emirates for Arsenal v PSG, huge Champions League game, and I'm asking the Gooners, why is the Premier League so rattled? So we're asking Arsenal fans. Adam, why are Premier League fans so rattled by Arsenal?
Because we're moving on up, and we're moving on up fast, and everyone is threatened.
I think we've come with a meaning this season. We want to win. We've been 2 years in a row second place. I don't think anyone's having it anymore.
Because we're winning. That's why. We're not doing it the way they want us to do it. We've not spent 500 million and broken 115 rules. We're winning. We're doing it the right way. Arteta's got us playing winning football, and that's why they don't like it.
You mentioned Man City. Obviously, we got the draw with 10 men. Seemed like all their players, all the staff wanted to talk about us after. Are Man City rattled by us?
We are completely under their skin. I've never seen them rattled like this before. Never. That whole competition with Liverpool, I'm pretty sure Klopp only beat Man City at their ground once in his era in the league. So if they would have went there and done what we've done, maybe they would have won the league a bit more often.
100%. They are absolutely petrified of Arsenal. You can see it. They have never been more threatened by another Premier League team, and I include Liverpool in that. They are more threatened by us than any other team because we've got the capability to beat them.
But it's quite interesting because Rodri touched on the fact that our mentality is poor for celebrating the draw, but it's the same Holland that went to Arteta telling him to stay humble after he drew, and he did nothing after he scored, by the way.
Of course they're rattled, mate. Of course they're rattled. Even Arteta came out speaking about Pep talking about, Arteta, it's about war now, it's about war. I think we're starting to, we're brushing shoulders with the big dogs here, isn't it?
De Bruyne's out, Rodri's out. Rodri, you look at their record with Rodri out, they struggle.
So this season, the media, rival fans have labelled us as Dark Arts FC. What do you make of that tag that's been put on us?
Doesn't matter. If we win, Mourinho did it for years. won titles. No one was complaining at the end of the season when you're lifting the trophy.
I think it fits us really. You know, you got the Red Cartel, and now you got the Dark Arts FC. So I don't know. Keep the nicknames coming, man. We'll keep using them, especially when we own the titles.
So many people saying park the bus. What do you expect us to do when we're down to 10 men at the Etihad? Any other Premier League team gets massive praise for drawing that game. So Dark Arts FC is a load of nonsense.
I say Expelliarmus, my brother. Expelliarmus, innit? That's what I was saying. Expelliarmus, people. We're going to get on that. I'll come here. I'll get everyone. I'll start posting and saying everyone come in the hats. You know, the wizardry hats. Come to the ground in wizardry hats. We celebrate being Dark Arts FC. I'll take it all day long.
Will Arsenal go on and win the league this season?
100%. We're going to win it this season. 100%. Teams do not have anything on us. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City. We're going to win this season. Come on, you Gooners.
So that is what the fans had to say. It's been a dramatic start to the season, though, hasn't it?
It has been a little bit, yeah. I mean, some of the controversy that Arsenal have had this season with the red cards and the yellow cards and kicking the ball away, but it's been a positive one, I think. And regardless of all the noise and outside and the dark arts and the way Arsenal are winning games, the most important thing is Arsenal are getting results. So for me, it's been dramatic, but it's been a very, very positive one.
Yeah, I keep asking myself, how did we get here regarding this dark art? I know. It's like I live in my own world or something. And when I come out of it, it's like, everybody hates us. Why is that? All we're trying to do is win. You know, and is it okay just to lose badly? Is that what we were? I don't understand it. We shouldn't have to apologise for trying to be competitive. You know, what we should be looking at is, Man City have won, was it 6 out of 7 league titles?
They have a 5 in a row.
6 out of 7 league titles. Is everybody happy with that? Or do they want people to compete with them? You know, so I don't quite get it, but maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, right?
How do you think the season's going?
I think a lot of the top teams do it when they have to, when they need to. You know, I remember Man City game away at Atletico Madrid in the Champions League where it was 0-0 and they had to hold on to the 0-0 and they played 11 men behind the ball in their box and were staying on the floor a long, long time. So I'm not singling out City. I just think that there are times, as good as you could be and as great as your players, it's football, whether you're down to 10 or 11 against 11, under pressure, away from home especially. Sometimes this is what you have to do. And I don't think Arsenal did anything really that outrageous either. So I think there's a bit of that. There's a bit of people feeling rattled or feeling the threat more than being rattled. I think it's feeling that Arsenal is growing very quickly and is getting better and better all the time. And as a club, as a team, everybody individually, like Darren said, improving, collectively improving. Arteta, as a coach, improving too. And I think a lot of people would feel like, oh, it's not good for us.
That's the word. It's the threat, isn't it? And actually, you've mentioned, Clive, that there's been a power shift. And it's interesting to see, obviously, what happened with City. You know, they were celebrating their goal, getting 1 point against Arsenal. That's City celebrating 1 point against Arsenal.
Yeah, I think the relationship has changed. The tone of response has changed. Yeah. City players were queuing up in the mixed zone, Jules, to have a word about how they felt Arsenal played. And that just means that we're serious. They haven't beaten us the last 4 appearances now, 4 attempts. So I'm not sure if it's power shift, but they can see that we are powerful. I think that's the thing. City are a big team. They found their way of playing, probably against us actually. Do you remember when they turned up in the home game and they were playing Bernardo Silva at left back? Remember, inverted left back? At half-time, they changed to Nathan Ake at half-time. Yeah. And I think they went on to win Champions League. 4 centre-backs at the back, powerful team. They sized up and they went on and won to treble, you know? And so we are now as powerful. We're standing there, they're looking at us and thinking, okay, we're bigger than them. We can look after the ball when we need to. And we can compete with them. And I think, I'm not saying it's a power shift. You need to win something to say it's a power shift. But we're a powerful team on the up for sure.
Nice, nicely put. So we're now going to get some questions from some match-going fans. So let's hear our first one.
Yeah, my question from Darren Bent is who should be Arsenal starting right back, Ben White or Timber?
Oh, cheers, thanks for that one. I love Ben White and I don't think he's done a lot wrong to White not being in the side, but just seeing Timber come back this season fresh, the one-to-one defending, comfortable in possession when he steps into midfield. I'm going to have to go with Timber. And maybe that's because he's right there with me, but I love Ben White and I think he has been exceptional for Arsenal. But I sense something with Timber where he's a little bit special. Doesn't care who's up against, even though he's not the biggest, will compete, he's strong, could be a little bit aggressive if he needs to be, a little bit naughty. I think moving forward, probably Timber.
Interesting. So let's have the second question.
My question for Darren Bent is, does Raheem Sterling take Martinelli's spot a month or two in already, or does Martinelli keep his spot at Arsenal as left winger?
Do you know what? I'll let Clive answer this one.
I was going to throw it to Clive anyway.
Raheem Sterling seems very happy to be at Arsenal. I watch him warm up. He's warming up from minute 1 to minute 90. And so he seems very keen to be part of it. But I think Martinelli, what he does on and off the ball, I think he's refinding himself. And for me, we should be investing in him, making sure he's healthy by getting him off the pitch when we need to. But for me, he's the future. And so it's still Martinelli for me.
Nice. And then our final question.
My question for the lovely panel is, if Arsenal don't win a major trophy this season, should Arteta go?
Behave. Oh, please.
You got the best one.
I got the best one. I got the easiest one, to be fair, because, you know. No, of course he won't go. He won't go. You want to win trophies because it also validates everything that you've done so well in the last 2.5 years, 3 years. But I think Arsenal know who they are against, especially in City, certainly domestically, and then the other big clubs in Europe. It's not easy. You've got only one winners over 38 games, or over Champions League that could be 15, 17 games this season, depending. But I think I always say, for me, the most important as a manager is 3 things, and that's how you judge a manager. First one is the style of your team, and I think for that we can all say that there's just no debate over Arteta and what he's doing with his team. Incredible. If you improve your players individually, Darren has already talked about that, and then it's the trophies. But if you have already 2 out of the 3, it's great, because the trophies is the hardest one to beat, because again, there's only one team that wins the Premier League, one team that wins the Champions League. So the progression is there individually, collectively, as a club too. Overall, the image of the club, the message coming from the club, the relationship with the fans, between the clubs and the fans, between the team and the fan, how the fans can identify themselves to this team now, which was not the case 5 or 6 years ago, or 10 years ago even anymore. So all that work that the whole club does from bottom to the top is wonderful to see, and a title will give so much more credit to it. I understand that, and I don't want the fans to be impatient or too disappointed. But I think there's more as well outside just winning trophies, and eventually the trophies will come anyway, whether it's at the end of this season, the following season. Pep won't be at City forever. We don't know what will happen to the charges to City, for example. So the future is still bright, but I know Arsenal fans want to win. So let's hope that there's something at the end of the season, whatever that is. But I don't think that would mean that Arteta needs to go as a failure.
Next up for the Arsenal is our 4th home game in 11 days as we take on newly promoted Southampton. Joining us now to discuss that match is Southampton podcast host and part of the talkSPORT fan network, Martin Sanders. Martin, welcome to Inside Gooners. It's been a contrasting week for both of our sides. So how do you see this one going?
I think it's a tough one for us. You know, we go to a side that I think they're going to win the league. I've really fancied Arsenal this year. I think they look superb. I do fear playing them, but we're under no pressure right now because, well, in this game, so to speak, because nobody expects us to get anything. Our fans don't expect anything at Arsenal. So it's almost seen as a little bit of a free hit. And we had sides come to St Mary's last year when we were fighting for promotion back to the Premier League and the Championship, and we had Rotherham come down. They were rock bottom at the time, and they walked away with the point. So it can be done. It's the Premier League. We're adapting to it, and we're really struggling right now. The manager's under huge pressure at Southampton, Russell Martin, not just for the style of play, but the results. Conceded 12 goals in the 6 games. It's been a dreadful start, and I think the result at Bournemouth at the Vitality on Monday night was a disaster. To be 3-0 down inside 35 minutes. Was an absolute disaster. And it wasn't just the performance, it was the lack of fighting courage that was shown by our players at such an early stage. It is a major, major concern.
So last time you were in the Premier League, you actually took 4 points off Arsenal and put a huge dent in our title challenge. Does that give you optimism then this season?
Absolutely, yeah. Totally different squad of players, different managers. But yeah, absolutely. It's one of the sides that we seem to get results against. That game at the Emirates was unbelievable. Theo Walcott on the night, an ex-Arsenal player, was at the heart of everything good about Southampton that night. But yeah, it's a tough one for us. We're struggling, certainly in the final third. I'm not sure where our goals come from right now, to be honest. We have plenty of attackers in the squad, but whether any of them are good enough for the Premier League is the major question. The young man to look out for, I spoke about him a lot on a lot of shows I've been on, is young Tyler Dibbling. He's really been brilliant for Southampton. He's 18 years old. but there's a lot of pressure on a young 18-year-old to go and deliver in the Premier League. I hope and pray that Russell Martin plays a striker in this one, because we failed to play a striker down at the Vitality in a must-win game on Monday night, and we looked absolutely toothless through the middle of the park. And if we're going to win games in the Premier League, we need some physicality up front, somebody that's going to hold the ball up and bring our players in, the wide men into play, because at the moment we're really struggling to sort of get it to stick in the final third and create chances.
Darren, do you have a question?
Yeah, Martin, I want to ask you about Southampton's style of play, because a lot's been made out from you guys playing out from the back. Russell Martin wants to stick to his principles. Do you feel that that's a positive thing for Southampton, or do you think that he maybe needs to have a plan A or a plan B? Because at the minute, Southampton to play against are a little bit predictable.
Yeah, Darren, you're totally right. They're way too predictable to play against. I thought he was going to adapt, actually. At the start of the season going into this, I thought, look, he tweaked the way he play. He's changed systems a few times. He's gone with a back five, gone back to a back four now. But he's going to have to find a plan B, because we gift teams too many chances. And when you're playing out like we do, we've got brilliant goalkeeper and Aaron Ramsdale, ex-Arsenal. He's brilliant. He's been magnificent. He's had a torrid few weeks for us already, because we're just letting in so many goals. But no fault of his, though. But he's just told to play it out to the back four all the time. He looks frustrated already, which is, he'd be regretting his decision right now, I would think. But Martin has to come up with a plan B. And if he doesn't, he will lose his job. There's no doubt about that. The ownership at Southampton, they have to take responsibility as well for the recruitment, which I don't think has been good enough this summer, in my opinion, certainly in the final third. And maybe he's been let down a little bit. But he has to try and get the best out of the players he's got, and continuing to play the same style of football isn't going to get results in the Premier League, in my opinion, and the whole fan base feel the same. I think it's turning quite toxic quite quickly. Our fan base seems to turn on managers quickly, and the pressure will really build on him if it's a horrific result of the weekend. He needs to change, Darren, really quickly.
Clive, do you have a question?
I do, Martin. Do you think to change styles, do you think you have the players to change styles? I mean, to maybe go a little bit longer on occasions and maybe be a bit more gritty off the ball. Do you think you have those players? Because I see a lot of young, talented, developing players, but I'm not sure they've quite got the experience yet. What's your thoughts?
It's good to see you, Clive. No, I think we do. I do believe we have players who go a slightly different route. I absolutely do. We've got a striker that we paid £18 million for a couple of Januaries ago, a guy called Odegaard. He's tall, he's big, he's physical. He's scored goals all across Europe, but he's really struggled in England. He's never really been given an opportunity, and he's somebody that's totally different. So if you want to play a bit like Bournemouth did the other night, play a big man through the middle, if you can get it wide, we've got pacey wide men. I spoke about Diblin, who's brilliant. Ryan Fraser, the other side, has got a bit of pace about him, but there's loads of options. There's creativity in midfield if he wants to bring it in, and Mateus Fernandes, and look to try and open up sides and get the ball in the box more. You've got Onuachu. Ross Stewart's making a comeback now, whether he's Premier League ready, but there's definitely a different way of playing. We come out of last season, we let Shea Adams go. And Shea Adams, a lot of people turned their nose up to him. He missed a lot of big chances. But he was physical and he could hold the ball up. He could drop in, play in the hole. And he was a brilliant foil for Adam Armstrong. Adam Armstrong's been totally blown out this season. He had a couple of tough games and he's been unfairly dropped. And we've not seen anything of him at all. He was a vice-captain last year. He can offer something if he's playing with a foil up front. Yeah. And I think he's got the options to do that with Onuachu, certainly, and potentially Ross Stewart. But yeah, we need to be so much better than we've been in the last couple of weeks. We weren't that bad against Ipswich. We played okay. Adam Lallana was brilliant in midfield. He gets dropped for the game at Bournemouth the other night, whether it was an injury or he's not quite fit enough. He come on, so he must be fit. But there's options, Clive, to play a different way. I absolutely believe that. And another manager would come in and would change it definitely, because there are some really good talent in the squad. But like you say, maybe it's a little bit too young.
Well, Martin, thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy the game on Saturday and good luck.
Thank you.
So after the late dramatics against Leicester, are we hoping for a more straightforward win this time out then on the weekend?
I hope so.
There was like a nervous laugh. You all looked at each other like,
You never tell, right? It's football, but we could do with a nice, easy day, you know, a nice sunny Saturday at the Emirates and go for a couple of drinks and enjoy it. just a nice steady day, international break. Don't send any players away, and everything will be good, right? That's the future. But it's not going to happen, is it?
No, I'd like Arsenal just to first half just completely take the game away from Southampton, and then maybe rest one or two. I know we've got the international break coming up, but I want it to be a calm and composed. I'd even take a 1-0 as long as Arsenal are in control of the whole game, because I don't want any spells where you're thinking, oh no, here we go again. I think Arsenal better than that. And when you look at where the two teams are, Southampton have struggled this season. We know how Southampton are going to play. They're still going to risk playing up from the back. Arsenal will know that. I thought PSG did it a lot last night, and it took Arsenal about 15 minutes to figure it out. We'll just go and press them because they've got no target to hit. We just heard Martin speak about Southampton having no physical presence up top. Go and do the same thing. Go and press them, and then you win the ball back higher up, and then you go and play your stuff. So I'd like to see Arsenal have a more comfortable afternoon.
But those comfortable 1-0 wins, okay, they're not always the most relaxing and settling, because this is the thing, a deflected goal, things like that can happen. So we might be comfortable, we might think it's all going well, especially, obviously, just quickly going back to the weekend. I mean, that goal went in just after half-time. Most of the stadium weren't even back in their seats yet. People where I was sitting came back and they were like, what just happened? So, yes, it's comfortable, even a 2-0 win, a 2-0 lead, but you never really know where the game, obviously, is going to go.
Sure, it's just how you control it, how good your rest defense is. So when we will have a lot of the ball in that game, 100%, 70% easily, I think. Maybe less because Southampton are going to try to play, but it's when you lose the ball how good your shape is and how good you are there to prevent anything from them. If you don't give them anything, I think this is going to be a tranquil afternoon for Arsenal.
So Timber went off injured against PSG at half-time. Does that mean we will see Kyrgios coming in over the weekend?
I think he will. I think he did okay when he came on, actually. He held his side quite well. You feel that Timber and Calafiori are in a new sort of level of intensity, and they look to be like you're on the edge of an injury, the pair of them. And so, and of course, Ben White for once has actually accepted he's injured. So we might have a problem at fullback at the weekend. But yeah, what we have got is some attackers that didn't get on against PSG, and so they'll be fresh and eager. So we'll be able to rotate in forward areas, or how people start games, not how people end games. They're bringing new energy. They want their numbers. They want their goal bonus, Darren. You know what I mean? They want their goal bonus, and so they'll be firing towards the end. So it should be good.
And obviously, Aaron Ramsdale makes his return to the Emirates on the weekend. Do you think he'll get a good reception?
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt. He was a great servant to the club. There was a decision made by Arteta to go for a different profile of a goalkeeper in David Raya. And I think even if Aaron maybe on that moment didn't really understand why you would go and change a player that has been working so well for you, I think he understood it. He understood it down the line, and I don't think he will hold any grudges that we say against Arteta or the club at all. I think he had a really good time at Arsenal. It's just the way football happens, right?
Yeah, I'm glad he's playing. I know Aaron well. I spoke to him. I'm gutted for him when he left, but as you said, these things happen in football. But I think for him, the most important thing, he's too good of a goalkeeper to just be sitting on somebody's bench. He has to be playing week in, week out. I know he's got aspirations of playing for England. He wants to eventually be England's number one. I thought we had a great chance of becoming England's number one if he'd stayed. He was close. Yeah. But the fact now that he's not playing, David Raya's coming, who's been fantastic. I mean, he should get a standing ovation out of Ramsdale because he was brilliant while he was at Arsenal.
Do you think it's fair, obviously, then what happened with him?
At the time, no. But as the season and the games have progressed, you can quite clearly see David Raya is a top quality goalkeeper. I mean, I wasn't sure at first because you're only judging them at Brentford. Yeah, and Brentford are conceding shots every 3 minutes. So it's better to be a goalkeeper. You look better as a goalkeeper when you're making saves every 3 minutes. But I think for David Raya now, even when Arsenal dominating possession and then he is called upon, he's obviously switched on, he's concentrated, his concentration is there. So yeah, I do think he's a top quality goalkeeper, I really do.
Interesting. I mean, it was about this time last year, wasn't it, when everybody was, in that big debate. And it's been really interesting to see, obviously, when we look back on hindsight, how and where kind of things have moved with regards to the goalkeepers.
That's the only thing for Arteta, I think, that he got it not wrong.
I think he got it a little bit wrong.
But it's what he said about the two number ones. That's the only thing I went, come on, we all know that you've not got two number ones. You want David Raya, he's going to play. Just come out and say that.
It's a little bit clumsy the way he was introduced, Raya.
Yeah.
And you mentioned substituting goalkeepers, and you created a storm around something that maybe didn't need to be there. But Raya's come in, and his trick is, we now have 11 players, and that's it. And a lot of tactics are about overloads. We've got a goalkeeper that helps provide you one. We have 11 players, and Aaron Ramsdale's a very good distributor, but he's a goalkeeper first and a footballer second. I think Raya he's a footballer, and the players play to him like one. That's a big difference how we play.
But then, obviously, we don't want it to happen, but what could happen if Raya does get injured?
Neto is a decent backup, really. And, I mean, I don't want to, like, touch wood, I don't want to, like, you know, but goalkeepers don't get maybe injured as much, or the risk is not as big as an outfield player, obviously, for obvious reasons. So you can have the odd injury there and there, but, you know, otherwise Neto, that's why they signed him. He was already a bit on the club's radar before too. He's a very experienced goalkeeper. So if it's for a few games, I don't think that's a problem. I even expect him to play in the domestic cups when he can. So it's not a problem, but Raya is the best goalkeeper in the league right now, and one of the best in Europe. So a bit like what we said about Saliba, the same you would say about Kai, all of that. You don't want them to be injured, but City don't want Ederson to get injured, Liverpool, Alisson, Real Madrid, Thibaut Courtois, same, you know. So let's just hope that nothing happens to David Raya.
Oh, absolutely. But I am obviously looking forward to seeing Aaron Ramsdale back at the Emirates. And I do agree. I think he will get an amazing reception when he arrives.
And you know he's going to get an amazing game, right?
Yeah.
You know he's going to have an amazing It's just like that. He will say he'll have 10 saves. Arsenal will still win, but he will have that one game where you think, oh, wow, come on.
I love that. That's all we've got time for this week. My thanks to Darren Bent, Clive Palmer and Julien Laurens. We'll see you next week. And remember, trust the process.